All right. Tap to speak. Oh, shit.
One more. Oh, no. Your video is stopped.
Yeah, so they can't see us. I turned off our camera.
Okay. They should be going.
Yeah, they're charging me $10 a month for Hulu. You last paid at $313. You also have. Just trying to see. So it's Hulu. So I'm sure it's Hulu, Paramount, and Showtime. Because right there it says you upcoming charges $413.25. Last payment was $313.25 for $9.99.
For Hulu.
Yes.
Hmm.
Billed through Roku.
Yeah.
Did you do it on there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that would be the $100. I mean, $10 a month would be $120 a year.
But Hulu is separate then.
No, well, I went through this on the pack that I found on my phone. That was who it was. It was that. It's supposed to be that price.
Hmm. We paid the 1 year fee.
No.
So I only paid for 2. Hulu's probably been on the whole time. I thought we came on Hulu. I mean, which is fine.
There's noise. There's noise.
Hi, for the participants that say Sean's group as your name, we can hear you. I'm not sure if you're meaning for that, or if you need to go ahead and mute. Yep, there you go.
Thank you. All right, let's come back into regular session at 7:06 PM, Laura. And so the next item on the agenda is just a reminder of board responsibilities and norms. So those are printed out for you, as well as the laminated leadership operating agreement. And their paper copy as well. So for the most part, the majority of these policies outline our board member behavior and conduct. Prior to and during our last board meeting, there were multiple scenarios that show lack of respect to both board members, district staff, and our superintendent. This is just a reminder that we've agreed upon respectful communication and productive conversations. While we may not always agree, our vote is for the record, and we do need to work to support each other as a team. The culture presented in the boardroom flows to the classroom. I believe we all have the goal to conduct ourselves and treat each other with courtesy and respect, just as we expect the culture in the school to represent the same behavior. So there's policies here for reference, or if there's any questions.
Sure, I have some highlights on this. Policy number 4, respect the right of other board members to have opinions and ideas which differ. I think I don't necessarily appreciate the statement read stating that there were multiple instances of disrespect. Without differentiating the fact that a question was asked to the board and not to the staff. I think the question directed to the board is to the board. I think if a board member has a question, other board members have information that they're not aware of, that could have been handled beforehand. I think in a public meeting, it's difficult as a board member to vocalize a statement when statements like stay in your lane or eye rolls or text back and forth with a staff member are happening in the live session. Insist that all board and district business is ethical and honest, number 9. Number 10, be open, fair, and honest, no hidden agendas. I think there's concern in some of those areas. Number 18, the most important, respect the rights of the public to be informed about district decisions and school operations as allowed by law. So maybe in a future meeting, discuss some of those. I think that stuck out to me. Policy BBA, board powers and duties. The board is responsible for providing adequate and direct means for keeping informed about the needs and wishes of the public and for keeping local community patrons informed about the school. It's been difficult this year with the leadership of the board to say that I have been informed about some of the needs and wishes that the public would want to be informed about involving the school. Number 3, paragraph 4. Board will authorize the superintendent to approve payment of all contracts and business transactions of the district in accordance with the board policies on purchasing and budget requirements. There is a question that I was not allowed to ask about a bill that I believe has formed a contract, whether written or not. Any bill that is not a direct bill to the school and be considered a contract with someone, and the board has supervision over all contract payments.
So there's a couple items on the agenda later on in new business, and I think one of them is considering your board leadership, and then also is the policy that you wanted to discuss. So
Yep, I'm just stating, since she gave us at a time, that those are some of the highlighted areas the board might want to look at as we go forward.
Okay, were you finished with that
Yes.
statement?
Okay, next up is our consent agenda. Is there a motion to consider?
I motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? All right, is there any discussion? Okay, Laura, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, do we have any patron comments?
I have Eric online wanting for
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, Sarah, before you get started, just give me 1 second. I don't do this every time because we don't always have patron comments, but this is just a reminder around patron comments that the Board of Directors values the opinion and input of students, staff, and parents, community members. Although the board meetings are held in public, they are not meetings of the public. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If you intend to speak to the board this evening, you will need to fill out the form or email the secretary as you've done and hand it into the board secretary, Laura Nickel. Public comments may be also made via Zoom. If you intend to speak via Zoom, please put your name in the comments so that the board chair can call on you. Before you begin your comments, please state your name. And if you are speaking for an organization, please state that organization. Additional information about public comments for more information on public comments at a board meeting, please see our policy BDDH. Yep.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hear you now.
This is Sarah Cash. If you were wanting me to type my name into the chat, I don't have access to the chat.
We saw your hand up and I think you let Laura know. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. I know you guys have a lot on your mind, and hopefully you know me well enough to know that I don't want to be at a school board meeting talking about something that doesn't have to do with the well-being of the kids. But for the next just about a year or so, I would really like to be able to get into the events at the school. The handicapped access issue can't seem to get resolved, although Krista has tried a few different things. I'm going to leave it at that because I could tell you stories, but it would probably be more effective. If you want to know more, you could ask me what you'd like to know. And anyway, if you want to ask me questions, go ahead. If you'd rather that I talk about my difficulties in accessing the building, you can let me know that as well.
So thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think you noted that you've been working with the district on that. And so as the board will, if there's additional things you'd like to share with us, that's great. And then we'll ask that you continue to work with district staff and operations to consider those concerns.
What would you like me to do?
Krista, can you advise in this based on what the next steps would be?
So Sarah, what we could do is, you and I can meet, we could talk through still your concerns. We could meet with, our insurance person and see what else we could do as well.
My concerns remain the same because the issue's unresolved.
Mhm.
And what does the insurance have to do with me being able to get in the building?
Well, we could talk to our insurance about what we need to do to help with that particular piece as well. But Sarah, I mean, this is your time to talk. If you want to talk about your concerns, this is your time to talk.
What does the insurance have to do with me being able to get in the building?
Well, we're just talking about how we can make that parking spot perhaps more accessible and what is needed.
Oh,
We work with PACE a lot about that as well. So we actually had we've been working with PACE to talk about that as well.
so is one parking spot sufficient for a school of this size?
We, what I can do, Sarah, if you want to, I can work with PACE and other pieces and talk about and see what their recommendations would be. And then you and I can get together. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I want to do that. virtually the next time. Please don't ask me to come back to your office until I have a parking place that I can get in
Okay.
and out of the building.
Okay.
And another piece is that we had plenty of accessible parking before the fence went up. So because no one, despite my repeated requests, took that into consideration when they installed the fence, the only place that I can now park is where the buses need to park. So, and then that space is full of other cars. So I don't really feel like looking at that space is going to solve my problem. But I am happy to meet with you again by Zoom.
Okay, Sarah, let me work with Pace and Mr. Albers and Laura, and I will get together, and then I'll have Laura give you a call and we can meet via Zoom.
Yeah, because there's quite a few egresses into the building, none of which I'm allowed to access. You know, they're locked, they're blocked. And it seems overly difficult. So unless your goal as the district is to make sure I can't get in the building, which is certainly possible, right?
It's never our goal, Sarah, I
I'm just
promise.
saying maybe you've had enough of me over the years.
No, I promise.
Yeah, my kid will be graduated here pretty soon, so you know it won't be an issue a year or so from now.
Okay, so Sarah, I will get back with you. Let me do some work on that with Mr. Albers, Laura, and Pace, and I'll get back with you in the next couple of weeks. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Good, thank you.
All right, do you have the additional, thank you, Sarah. Is there an additional one on there, Laura? Okay. We'll move into our reports. Superintendent K through 12 principal report.
So I'll do the superintendent first. Mr. Albers and I met with WLA. One of the things that we've noted both through audits and just in general is we need to have a better way of communication. So we are going to set up secure Google folders between WLA and us to ensure that we have files, including driver files, vehicle maintenance, and daily inspection forms, so that we're complying with all state and federal regulations. That came out in the audits that there were some things that were missing and everything. So we met with them. We're setting up a system. Mrs. Smallword is working with WLA to get those files completed by the end of the school year. Same system for ALSI. One of the things I do want to bring up, and I may continue to bring up, is that if we're going to continue to be a charter school, transportation is wholly important for us to not only bring in students who live within our district boundaries, but who live outside. One of the issues that we have is not the number of routes, but the number of drivers we have. So if we want to continue to grow and even maintain our enrollment, if we choose to be a charter district, we do need bus drivers. Right now, we have one bus driver who drives the morning route, and then I have 2 employees who take time off of their job to take kids home in vans, and then they come back and finish their job. And so we have posted regular drivers positions throughout this year and last with nothing. And so if we cannot fill our positions and we can't get those, we're going to have to continue to look at contracting with an outside bus agency, which means we are spending more money than we need to be spending. And so I just want to throw that out there for everybody. It's wholly important for us to do that. The football field, Mr. Albers has worked with an insurance company. We found a company to redo the football field based on the vandalism that happened. The company we found was approved by an insurance company. They're going to come in May. They're going to completely take the football field down. I think I'm going to say this right. They're going to level, resand, recrown, and then we're going to hydro seed. We received the settlement amount from the insurance company minus the deductible of 1,000. Soderstrom Architects actually donated money towards that. So that deductible was paid by that, which I appreciate Marlene and her people for doing that. We are going to start mid-May. It should be ready by the upcoming football season. one of the things that Mr. Harris is working on with, the coaches is really trying to make sure that the grass is actually taken. So we may not have a home football game for a while, just to make sure. And I know that people have been asking me, there has been actually no word on any arrest in this case. And then over spring break, Mrs. Shunk and I attended the RTI conference, at work in Phoenix, Arizona. This was paid through title funds, and the ESD actually has funds that they appropriate for each district within our region to use for professional development. So we went down there to look at different, how to implement different tiers of supports for students. We looked at different things of using data, staff strengths, schedules, assessments in general. I'm very excited to be working with Mrs. Shunk, and really how do we continue to build our system of support for our students, and how do we implement it to fit schedules. And it's going to look different at Learn at Home as it would in building. So, and then for the principal report, I don't know why mine's being slow.
Mine was really slow. I had to
Okay.
read.
Can I ask a quick question about your
Yes.
super report? So
Yes,
at one point, I think you mentioned that we're putting irrigation into the football field.
we are not. We actually got quotes for that, and we are not able to do that based on those quotes. They were much more higher than we thought they would be. So we are looking at other avenues besides having people pick up. And so I think they're called cannons. Is that right, Richard? Okay, good. We're looking at different types of cannons that we could use to do one sweep rather than moving. Because really, ultimately, last summer, Mr. Albers and his staff spent more time fixing irrigation every time it got moved. That actually, the cost effectiveness of that. So, and then the school board report, we just have student of the month, like I said, we did, February and March. We started our OSAS testing, which we test grades 3 through 8 and 11 in, science in March. We actually did 5, 8, and 11. And then we just actually started this week, the OSAS ELA testing, which is grades 3 through 8 and 11. And so, thank you to staff for flexibility, because we are moving rooms, we're using library, which means Mrs. O'Brien can't use it sometimes for art, things like that. Last Tuesday, we had the OMSI come down. They brought their planetarium, so their big thing we had in our gym. And so grades K through 4 were able to do a presentation on stars and planets. Miss Pinion set up that activity. One of the things is that she always takes her kids, because she does like a galaxy unit. And at the end of the unit, she takes her kids to different planetariums. But because with some of our bus driving issues and getting kids back in time to use the bus drivers, we weren't able to do that. So we were actually able to bring the OMSI in, which meant we got to have more kids experience it. And that was paid through the SIA grant, because part of the SIA grant is for STEM activities. So, Mr. Harris and I got slimed. Leadership did an activity. They raised $200. It'll go towards leadership activities. And then the 4th grade went to Clemens Park. They were raising trout for the winter, and they went out and actually put it in the river. So
Fun.
yeah, the river was really high. They were very sad because they wanted to go and like actually put it in like other classes have been able to put on waders and go into the river. And we would obviously not let them do that. So they were very sad. Well, you let somebody else do it. I'm like, buddy, a little different time. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, enrollment report.
There it is. We're staying pretty steady as we were at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. When I was looking at a reduction, it's less than our reduction was from the previous year, so.
To be quite honest with you, I actually think this will be our new normal. This number seems to be it.
Maybe a slight increase with
Jackie, now.
adding.
Our own 5th grade.
I would think we probably will be about 250. We're graduating 11. We're going to do kindergarten roundup in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Our hope is that what we graduate, we bring in. We're not really sure where that's at. So if anybody can hear me online, if you have a kindergartner, please come at that time, because that's going to help us really start planning for next year. And then regular attenders, it's so slow.
I know,
Mine's going quick.
Oh, is it?
Oh.
Okay, mine's fine. Mine's just,
mine's slow.
we're still getting hit with the bug. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming back.
Okay.
So our hope is that we can figure it out. One of the things that we've been talking about at the legislative level is really how do we talk about attendance? What gets counted for attendance and whatnot. I know that's a huge piece as well, so.
There's a bill that, did it go through or is it still pending?
Which one?
For truancy.
It's still pending. It's in. I'm not sure if that one will go through.
We're
I-
still counting excused absences as absent, right?
Everything is counted, yeah. So one of the things that we're talking about in the bill is like, how do you really count excuse, like, you know,
Right.
things like that. One of the things I do want to throw this out, it just came out the other day. There's actually a bill that came out of the Senate subcommittee about banning cell phones completely from schools. So students would not be able to have it at all at school. They would have them closed at, they would have to have them turned on and put away from 8 AM and they could not get them until the end of school. So I'm watching that bill because of course the legislators love to pass bills, but then it's like, could you please give us some money to help implement it?
Yeah.
So I'm not really quite sure, but that one just came out. So if you happen to see that, just a heads up on that one. We're watching that.
Is that
Well,
this
they're gonna be in-
legislative session?
Pardon?
That's this legislative session.
Mhm.
Will there be another report we get to run on that?
Well, the idea, I've also heard they want to make that into Division 22, so that would be something they'd have to do. But it's pretty prescriptive that they will not have them from when school starts, school ends. So lunchtime, no. Passing periods, no. Literally, they would,
That's right.
literally, it would be between this time and this time.
Well, how would you manage it with an off-campus lunch?
So I've been talking with COSA. I actually just texted one of them today and said, one, who's gonna help us do it? Two, is there money involved? And I think they're working because of the same thing, Deb. How
I
do you
think
manage that?
I've run into some constitutional arguments on invasion of privacy.
So,
I don't,
Yeah, I
and you
don't
can
see that
legislate all you
flying.
want.
Yeah.
I find a parent saying they want to be able to access their kid during the day at school if there's an emergency is going to trump. But we'll see.
yeah, so that one, like I said, I actually just read that article 2 days ago. So just a heads up on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it just came out in the Oregonian. So, yep.
All right, thank you.
See.
Ms. Chunk, Learn at Home Oregon Principal Report.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Right, I'll be very brief. So we had a really wonderful Student of the Month assembly last month in March, celebrating lots of different things. Our character trait was super. Our character trait for April is humble. Our overall character piece that we're working on this year is friendship. So we picked the letters from that. We were really happy with our attendance. Seems to be, going up. I'm proud of the 78%, but I'm proud that we're growing in that. So we want that to be a lot higher for our 90% and higher attenders. I included our community newsletter that I send out once a month for you to look at for March. And we try to include a lot of updated school-wide information plus like inspiration for different pieces that parents can check on around our state. And then I included our current iReady, and we're tracking all of that very closely, working with students. I think the parents are feeling very we're also doing the kind of high dosage tutoring that's happening in the brick and mortar as well. So our teachers are hyper focused on data and closing academic gaps, and then also providing challenge for students who need that challenge. I included that tomorrow we'll be working in PLC with the brick and mortar and Learn at Home staff together and going over priority standards. And believe Ms. Nerat mentioned this, or I may have mentioned this before, but Ms. Nerat and I worked with the curriculum for language arts and our other one for math to focus in on specific standards. And then that ties into what Ms. Nerat mentioned earlier about the RTI conference that we both attended, which was phenomenal. And we both felt like that was probably one of the top conferences we've ever attended. But anyhow, using that data and really making sure, like she mentioned earlier, that our schedule reflects our focus on closing gaps and attending to that immediately. So I'm very grateful to have been able to attend that with Ms. Nerat. And then we had our student-led conferences last week, which went really well. We had high attendance for that for parents, and I was really proud to see and hear that students were showcasing their work, talking about what their growth is, and really being center stage there. So we're going to continue to build those skills in our community. Any questions?
I have a couple. First one is about the iReady data. It's
Yes.
hard to know what to make of this without historical data to compare it to.
Yeah, each time for our board meetings, I try to do the most up-to-date data. So and this is school-wide, this is K-5. So the green, we're looking at or above grade level. So if we're looking at the reading, we have that portion of, and I believe you could probably make it, I'm looking at my screen. You might be able to enlarge those. They're little pictures on there.
I can read it. I just don't have any historical data to tell if they're getting better or not.
Yeah, so we're tracking that not only in reading, or I'm sorry, iReady, but with our core phonics routine assessment and diagnostics. So yes, I would say we're seeing growth in our students, and we're really proud of that growth. iReady will focus, while iReady focuses on a lot of comprehension pieces and other reading skills, our core phonics allows us to find out where they are with foundational level skills. So with both of those, we are seeing growth with all of our students. However, the students that might be struggling, they're getting like that one-to-one tutoring that the brick and mortar students were coordinating with brick and mortar to provide as well.
So I wonder if it's possible for you to include in your reports a way to show us that growth, not just where they're at currently.
Yeah, I will, and I'll do that for next month. Or I don't know if I can send one sooner, but
We'll just do it next month.
That's fine.
okay, so we'll put that in. Yeah, I'll make a note of that and make sure that you can see what that growth over time, because that's also a chart that I can access. And
thank you, because that's what's
Yeah.
important to me. It's not where they are right now. Are they getting better?
it's the top of my brain and all of our teachers all the time too. So I'm grateful that we're all on the same page and focused on that growth is our number one.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
I also
absolutely. Thank you.
Just had a comment about the student-led conferences. I think that's a great idea. And in fact, my student's teacher did that here at Brick and Mortar this year. He had a list of goals and wins from the last term, and he had his best workout to show us. And it was really nice to have the student. He didn't necessarily lead it, but he was a participant in it, which I thought was great. And I thank you for embracing that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that it went really well for your child too. And I think it really builds that ownership piece. It strengthens their understanding that this is about them and that they have to take charge and they can speak for themselves, and with guidance of parents there and teacher. But I think that it is a fantastic piece to have for every student.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Ms. Shunk.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good evening.
You as well.
you.
Mr. Harris.
I don't know if he's on. Mr.
He
Harris,
track
are you
meet,
on?
right?
No, he had an appointment tonight. He
Okay.
wasn't sure if he'd make it. So there's his report. We are doing, as you all voted on, the co-op for the baseball. So Monroe Alcee baseball team actually has 20 students. So there's a JV and a varsity. So our students play on both. he's working right now on the volleyball and football schedules. Like I said, he decided and he's working with the football coach. We're not actually going to host the Jamboree this year. We want some time for it to get better. Our goal is to bring it back next, like not this coming year, but the year after. I believe we are looking at doing the volleyball Jamboree still, but the football, they're looking at actually playing a game that week. So meeting like at Mackenzie or something with another team. So he's working on it and finding out that 6-man football schedules are not as easy as they seem. They're pretty, yeah. And so, yeah, that is his report.
Alright. Financial statements. I don't think Mr. Staley's here this evening either.
He is not. So the big thing he wanted me to go over once it actually goes again, because mine's not going. One of the adjustments that we make is, so part of the state school fund is you actually get funded on teacher experience. So they take the state average. Laura does this lovely report with Roxy, and they take the state average. So they take all the teachers' experience and they say the state average is this. And so if you go above the state average, and this is, now I got it, it's the very first one for the general fund. If you go above the state average, you get more money. If you go below, you get a reduction of money. And so initially, and remember when we talk about the state school fund, all these things are like changing throughout. So a lot of this is a lot of like assumptions. But when we first got our projection for the state teacher average, we were just below the average by 2.3 years. And then as they updated, it actually dropped to 6.95 years. So we actually lost a little bit of money based on teacher experience. So that's on page 5. He's encumbered all of the salaries and benefits, non-payroll items. We have been encumbered as well. We're transferring money for the special education stipend. That's been projected, and we're putting that out to our special education staff. And I believe it's their May payroll. We received the menstrual dignity grant again for $910. So Mr. Albers and Mrs. Campbell are working on getting those funds spent by June 30th, because Mr. Staley and I believe that if we get money from the state, we're not wasting it in any way, shape, or form. We have looked at, again, the projected transfer from the general fund for food service program is down to about 54,000. We need to find ways to continue to bring that down. Capital projects, we're continuing to look at interest earned. Awesome grants, we have about $50,000 left in the bond and awesome grants. So, and this is something that Nancy and Chris will talk about. The additional cost for the fire alarm system will be about 58,000 more because the electrical came in so high. We have the remaining shares of the awesome grant, and we have some capital projects. So we do have the money to actually cover that. Seismic rehabilitation, again, Chris and Nancy will go through that. We have got contracts, working on contracts. We've worked through, it's not even through OD, it's the Oregon Business Development Department. We are looking at a reserve for the unemployment. Right now, we're not sure what our unemployment will actually look like. So right now we have 149. We might need to, in our budget, we're probably going to move it up. And then PERS reserve, we have approximately $35,000 in that. And then going through, you have all of your fiscal pieces. He always likes to share the food service piece with everybody, so you all know where we're at. Oh, you can see that the net loss on per meal is $1.58. We're still working on that. I've met with Mrs. Smallwood and Mr. Taylor, and we've been talking about ways to really increase the use of our commodity, because that's free food to us, to really help get that number down, that loss number down. We are working on the budget. So it actually is pretty much ready to go. We're going to spend some time, Mr. Staley and I, tomorrow getting everything ready to go. And I'm hoping to get all the budget out to the board and the budget committee meeting like within the next week. So hopefully, I might be saying that wrong, but we're pretty close to being done.
Would you be able to send out the dates with that also when you send that out, just so we have all of the training?
Yes, Laura will
dates
send
and
that out
meetings
as
so
well.
that we,
Yep.
just as a reminder.
Okay.
Any questions? All right, Mr. and Mrs. Dickey, April 2025 IMS report. Oh, they might need to be asked to unmute. Oh. Nancy's still muted.
Nancy,
Oh,
can you hear us?
I'm
here.
here. I think Chris is working on unmuting at the moment.
Okay. Well, we're ready for you. Are you ready to talk about the updated report this month?
Certainly. Chris is having some technical problems, so I'm gonna have him use my account here.
Hello, folks.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry about that. For some reason on my computer, it wasn't unmuting. You should have our report before you there, and there are two active projects. One is is that reverbing?
Nope.
Okay, good. Two active projects. We have the fire alarm replacement project scheduled for the summer and the seismic renovation project that Krista referred to that's also scheduled for this summer. So the fire alarm project design is complete. It's in for permits, and you should have the budget there in the report that we provided. Krista alluded to the fact that as we discussed last month, the electrical costs and some additional costs were incorporated into that. So you're seeing the complete budget there. And we understand that there's some funds that were discussed as being allocated for that. But that budget summary that's in there shows the complete cost, including BOLI and other elements that are associated with it. Any questions on fire alarm before I go on to seismic?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, great. As far as the seismic goes, we finished design, and as we reported last week, we were waiting for Todd Construction to bid this design, and they did that, and they received bids last Wednesday. We got a report from them on Thursday, and if you'll recall, our construction budget, including contingency, is 1.95 million, and they came in $500,000 over budget, so almost 25%, which was extremely discouraging. So we called an immediate meeting with Todd Construction and our design firms, and that happened on Friday, and we walked through some ideas to trim that back while keeping the structural integrity of what we're trying to accomplish for the seismic upgrade. They've already come up with about $75,000 worth of reductions, but they're putting their heads together, and there's a meeting tomorrow in Portland at the engineer's office that we're going to be going through some other ideas. So there's a pretty hard conversation going on with them about getting this down into a reasonable realm. I think, Krista, did the board members receive the budget sheet?
The
that
preliminary
Todd sent over?
summary.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, good. Okay. So what I'd like to do is, rather than going into detail on that summary, I think we're going to see some significant changes on that. I've already heard about some changes as they've dig into ideas and alternate bidders and what we can do to reduce those costs. What we'd like to do is give them this week and go through some cost-cutting measures, and then have a special session with you as the board sometime early mid next week, where we can really go through the details with you and tell you the results of what they've achieved and where we stand. And we're even looking at things that we can do to cut back finishes. But I'm concerned about that approach. I think we still want to come up with a product that we're going to be proud of at the end. So we're going to be itemizing costs for all these things. And you can see on that sheet, there's a lot of individual numbers. And I'd be glad to go through any of those things with you right now. But I think we might be better served letting them do their work and then getting together sometime next week.
One of the things, Chris, that I want to point out to the board, if you look at the alternate recap, so 2 through 8, this would be things like we would want to add on. So like adding redoing the stage flooring, adding the locker room shower pans and partition. So the number you look at the bottom is the base bid of 24,27,991 minus number one. So 2.378 million. 2 through 8 would be in addition.
Yeah, and
if
I
we
can
wanted
explain
to
that.
do it.
I
Yeah.
can explain that first alternate. As you know, we're waiting on the state to award the phase 2 of the seismic grants, which is for the east wing of the school, and then also the boiler room and the library. And if we get that award, we won't have to do some of the work that connects those buildings, and that's what that $50,000 represents. So that would be an immediate deduct if we're awarded that grant. Is there anything else I can explain to the board right now? Or again, and I think this is, Krista, it's up to you and Christine and the board, just to confirm availability for sometime early mid next week for a special session to review this.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question. Could it be a virtual special
Mhm.
session? I think that sometimes works better when we do something kind of a quick turnaround. Is that okay with you guys?
Certainly okay with us, as long as that's what your policy allows.
We just we have to give enough notice.
I think one of the big pieces is we really do need to look on this because we would like to start if we're going to move forward mid-May. So that means we have to look at that. The board needs to make decisions. We have that 700,000 unappropriated. We talked about it last meeting. You know, when we looked at this in November, and Chris, please tell me if I'm incorrect on this. When we got kind of the preliminary bid of what the cost would be, it was preliminarily at 1.8 million. But when we look at supply costs and all those things going up, that's where we're seeing that increase. And you know, thanks to ZCS and Soderstrom, they're really looking at seeing where we can cut back. But you know, this is kind of one of those pieces when we talk about having that money available, how do we want to spend it on? And I was very taken back. I called Chris and was like, what is this? But a lot of it really is the cost of supplies and labor are going up.
Well, and I can add just a little bit of additional information for interest. The assessment that our engineer did that resulted in the $1.8 million cost estimate was created last summer. Yeah. And then as we got into design, and as you all know, there's been a number of changes that have affected the construction industry with tariffs and other things since then. But as we got into construction and completing the 75% design package, which was earlier this year, we had cost estimates completed, and our third-party estimator put it at 3.2 million. And Todd Construction, who was also on board, put it right at around this number that they're coming up with, the 2.4 million. And that's when we undertook with the design team and the construction team to come up with some cost saving measures, and they did some changes. And to their credit, none of them have come back and asked for a change order. So they've been working with us very well as partners to try to get the cost down. But the uncertainty in the markets right now is affecting everyone. We're seeing numbers that are in a number of other projects that are 50% or 100% beyond budget. It's a very difficult time, and so subcontractors and contractors are putting contingencies of 25 or 50% on their numbers, which we've never seen in the industry before, just because of the changes in the market. So I'm afraid that's what's affecting us right now, is this condition. But anyway, Todd is talking to all of their subcontractors. They're talking to alternate subcontractors to try to get, even if they can save $5,000. And the engineers are working hard, and there were some good ideas that came out of it, our discussion last Friday, to try to come up with alternate structural solutions. Again, keeping in mind, at the end of the day, we have to, with this project, we have to make the gym and the associated areas safe from a significant earthquake. So it's a large undertaking for a 1950s building. So that there's a lot of changes that are happening with this project.
And what obligation do we have to see this project through?
And that is a great question. So the state grant that's provided for the seismic pays a certain amount, and they won't go beyond that. If there's an opportunity, sometimes if there's something where you can argue that we just can't make budget and we can cut scope out, they might allow that. But in this case, the unfortunate part with this project is we're talking about the gym and these adjacent areas. It's one large puzzle. There isn't another piece that we can carve out. We've already pressed on that with the engineers. Yeah, we can't cut out, say, the office wing, the high school office wing, or the staff room. It won't work. It's got to be, unfortunately, for this phase, it's one cohesive piece. And unfortunately, the state, in awarding and you're in accepting the grant, with the committed funds for design, they will not reimburse that if we do not complete the project. So we've already spent 370 some $1,000 that would not be reimbursed if we don't complete the construction.
Thank you.
Other questions? Can we look at a time for a special session?
So one other question. So the grant was for 2.48 million, right? That was
That's
the
right.
grant. And then we have spent 300,000, so that leaves us 2.2 or 2 million. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah, I think, Russ, if you look at the budget spreadsheet summary that's in your report,
Right. I'm
yep,
looking at
you can see that. It actually shows the actual cost to date.
that. Okay, and so we're a shortfall of like 400,000 is what you're guessing?
Yeah, right now, we're a little more than 400,000 based on the cuts that they've already been able to make in the last couple of days. That's
Okay,
right.
thanks. I just wanted to make sure I had the numbers right.
Yep, that's right.
Thank you. I'm pretty free next week.
Okay. Do
You
we,
guys, I don't have any
Is-
obligations.
Does virtual work best for everybody?
What?
Virtual work
Works fine
best?
for me.
yeah.
If we do virtual, I just need it to be 6:30 or later to get home in time.
Chris, what days next week would work for you?
Yeah, I need to confirm with the team, but I think probably anything except Wednesday evening would work for us.
Okay.
Do
And-
we have?
No,
Sorry,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. No, I was just going to say, we're pressing them for by Friday to give us some information. So we should be able to schedule something, knowing your availability for next week.
She works Thursday night. I mean,
Chris, would Tuesday night work, or do you think that's pushing them too quick?
No, I think that's what we need, frankly, is we are pushing them. They're working.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you folks are available Tuesday, that would work fine.
Okay. Is Tuesday at 6:30 okay?
try 7.
Or 7?
Is that better for you, Jamie? I mean, you said.
I mean, that allows to maybe throw a little food down my
Yeah, let's do
trap,
7.
but
7 p.m.
Let's do 7.
Okay, 7 PM on Tuesday then?
Are we okay with
Oh, that's tax day, guys. Are we sure?
Sure, why not?
Have an appointment.
Okay.
If you haven't filed your taxes by then, you just
Thursday.
filed it.
Tuesday works.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Tuesday-
just kidding. Okay,
and then-
Tuesday, April 15th at 7 p.m. We'll have a virtual meeting.
And I will bring to, and we've been talking, Mr. Albers, Mr. Staley and I have been talking about this. And we will bring some thought processes on the budget as well. And give you guys kind of that fuller picture.
So we know that 700,000 if it's usable or not.
Well, it's right now it's unappropriated. The board would have to say we want to, but
Right.
we have some other ideas on how maybe we can gain some more money through
Okay.
interest and stuff like that. So we can bring that.
In these trying times, we can sit on that money.
Well,
That's just my personal opinion.
it's
So-
at least 300,000 over there.
So Laura, will you put we can do it tonight. We'll put a calendar invite out and we'll get it all set up in the, okay. Perfect. Okay.
Any other questions or any other feedback that you have for us?
No, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we look forward to having a little bit better news. next Tuesday. Thanks for being available for a special session.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are into new business. New business AA, action be taken based on discussion in executive session. Fair motion to consider.
Pursuant to executive session 2A or AS 192.6602F. I make a motion. I move that the board take no action in accordance with the board's discussion in executive session.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and there's a second. Laura, can you please take a vote?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, budget committee applications. We have an application for one budget committee member. That's up for your review and then a motion to consider to accept their application.
So I was looking at this Foster's Budget Committee application
Mhm.
and opened it up, and the dates on the budget meeting is incorrect. They're for 2024, not 2025.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
So these are all
Last year's.
Oh, you're right. Good call. So, it's the second page. It's
Yeah.
the 2024-2025 budget calendar.
Yeah, that's incorrect.
Oh, because it all says 2024.
Yeah,
Okay,
are those the 2025 dates?
let me look real quick to check the dates.
We have a session on the 22nd.
Yeah, maybe.
20 Tuesday, the 23rd.
Oh, that's a Wednesday.
Yeah, so Laura, we're gonna have to check because I'm not quite sure if that,
I think I pulled it.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was last year, so, yep.
Doesn't change the fact
I
that
was
we
gonna-
can't accept, we can accept the.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna ask that question. So
We can
can still
accept it,
the
yeah.
application
That's,
from the
this was
person.
just like, here was what you do, yeah.
So do we need to name the person in our motion?
Yes.
So I would like to make a motion to accept Tracy Foster as one of our budget committee members.
all right,
Second.
motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, Laura, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 All right, next up is our superintendent evaluation summary. I will read this into record. It will be then available for, it'll be available online and within the minutes as well. So this is the superintendent evaluation summary report for Ms. Kristen Nera on April 8th, 2025. The Alsea School Board of Directors finds that Superintendent Kristen Nera has continued to achieve her goals in both fostering effective and open communication and promoting ongoing academic and social emotional success and growth for the Alsea District. She has demonstrated notable efforts in fostering effective communication and partnerships by leveraging diverse communication channels such as social media, newsletters, and surveys, and district-wide transparency has improved significantly. Engagement strategies directed at staff and parent were impactful. Goals and innovative communication will need to be a continued priority. The board recommends broadening outreach initiatives such as introducing community forums for non-parent stakeholders. Additionally, efforts to promote academic and social emotional success yielded progress through the initiatives like professional learning communities, PLCs, high dosage tutoring, and additional student support measures. These contributed to improvements in placement scores and the expansion of curriculum and resources bolstered student learning. The board encourages continued professional development and improved mechanisms for academic progress reporting and teacher-parent communication. Leadership in aligning the district's mission and vision with student-centered priorities was evident through strategic planning and realignment. Community outreach efforts successfully conveyed updates on budgets, bond projects, and facilities, while opportunities remained to enhance collaboration with staff in shaping the district's vision. Ethical leadership was exemplified through professionalism and integrity in decision-making through this year of evaluation, with a continued focus on communication to all district stakeholders. The superintendent made strides towards cultivating an inclusive district culture by improving behavioral standards and classroom management policies. Increased engagement with students in the community was noted. Continued professional development and data-driven decision-making positively impacted instructional leadership with attendance rates showing improvement. The board encourages continued updates in how learning data informs instructional adjustments. Communication and community relations improved through enhanced visibility with the implementation of Remind and expanded parent engagement efforts. Effective organizational management included optimizing resources and fostering strong labor relations. The board continues to partner with Ms. Nerot to encourage staff retention, morale, and support the superintendent's workload. In financial management, the superintendent displayed commendable transparency and fiscal responsibility, securing alternative funding sources to support district goals. The board desires to stay up to date regarding cost-saving strategies and program sustainability. Finally, governance and advocacy efforts were strong, with active statewide advocacy and governance practices maintaining compliance and communication. In partnership with the superintendent, the board seeks to foster inclusive governance and district priorities used in decision-making. Alsea School District Board of Directors. With that, we will take a motion to accept the superintendent's evaluation summary.
I make a motion to accept the superintendent evaluation summary.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? All right. Laura, can you do a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 All right, integrated guidance presentation. I will pass this one over to you.
Okay, Laura, can you let me turn on my camera? And I need to be a co-host. So while Laura's doing that, I'm gonna put this up for everybody to see. So our integrated application for the upcoming biennium is due April 30th. One of the pieces, as I put in my board recommendation form, is that the application presentation has to be out there, open for public comment, and the application has to be approved by the board, the application, not the budget. So I'm gonna go through this. Can I share, Laura? Oh, I can. Okay. Hopefully there's no reverberation. I muted myself so we can just hear. So as we go through, sorry about that. Planning team members, the Alsea administration, staff, students, charter school parents, community members, and then Alex Nalavico from LBL EST. We used the survey results from the strategic plan. We actually gave the kids grades 4 through 12. We gave them student surveys. We took a relational trust survey. Ms. Wilson gave that to them. That was for grades 7 through 12. We used a lot of what the strategic plan was perfect because we had a lot of those surveys. We also had the ESD come out and meet with focal group students. Our focal group students are students with disabilities, so on 504s and IEPs, and students of color. And so they came out and did one-on-one empathy interviews. So the required planning process, we go through, this is exactly what we've had to do before. We've had to use the equity lens. So we used the ODE equity lens and the equity lens that the board approved the last time we did the integrated guidance. We had the community engagement. We looked at comprehensive needs assessment based on the results for that community engagement. We had a development of 4-year plan, which the board saw the last time I did it. We actually had to build it out 4 years. And so I worked with Alex and then staff to build our plan. Remember, our equity tool is really about looking at the historically underserved students. And I want to really point out, in our case, underserved doesn't always mean race. It can mean disability. It can mean socioeconomic level. We really want to talk about, based on kind of this decision making, that we really want to start using a lot of professional development, not only for our teachers, but our staff as a whole. And how do we responsively teach to students? And when you put culturally, again, it's not just race. It can talk about socioeconomic level, disability. How do we target interventions? How do we expand of CTE access for underrepresented group? We also actually also used our Oregon Student Health Survey. So that was given to grades, I believe it was 6, 8, 10. We gave that this year. And so I was able to give Alex the results of that data as well. So we actually had lots of data. We had a lot more data than we did when we first did it. Again, here's some highlights that we did. Key learnings from our comprehensive engagement process, that they seek hands-on career-oriented learning, that our families want stronger communication and higher academic rigor. Our staff wants higher academic rigor and higher attendance. So as a direct result, when I looked at the budget with Alex and the staff, we want to continue to support CTE and enrichment courses. I'm calling courses enrichment because currently we only have one CTE program of study. Culinary is not a CTE. Art, any of the art classes, they're not CTE. So I'm calling them enrichment. So we can make sure we have that designation piece out, that we want to continue and increase our academic supports and resources, and that we really want our family engagement pieces prioritized in the budget. So this actually Alex did, and I don't know how to make it bigger. Let me try. Did I do it? Okay. This is actually our data from our relational trust inventory that actually Miss Wilson did with grades 7 through 12, and then empathy interview data. So when Alex came out, he did our focal group. And so the reason I wanted to show this to the board is that as we're looking through, we're seeing a trend. We can see that all kids are saying that the relationships between students and teachers are some of the most important pieces in both of those pieces of data, as well as looking at fair and supportive feedback, and then the social and dynamics. Obviously, you can see social or emotional and physical safety is not something that was mentioned a lot. However, it was mentioned. So as we build kind of plans and ideas, really, how do we get around that? As well as the support and self-advocacy and student voice and agency. And so I wanted to show this. Alex actually sent it to me, and I thought this was a great way to show our data. So again, some needs assessment highlights. We saw there were academic gaps in ELA and math, really across the board. So we are making positive gains, but we still want to grow our student skills. We have reduced our chronic absenteeism, but it's still not spectacular. We have increased our 9th grade on track and graduation rates. Now, our graduation rate, please remember, we believe last year is the last year we'll have that online piece. And so we're hoping then that we just now have the brick and mortar. Laura and I have been really working with OD to make sure, hopefully it'll drop off soon. But one of the things that we noticed is we went from 46% of 9th graders on track the year prior to 100% last year. We want to continue to focus and support all of our students to graduate on time and give them opportunities to see what post-secondary opportunities lie for them. And it's not just when we say 9th grade on track. 9th grade on track starts when they're in elementary school and starts when they're in junior high. So how do we support all of that throughout? We noticed families and students want more opportunities to engage with the school. And then there's that continued demand for CTE and enrichment course offerings. So as we continue to look through and break down, here's the priorities: the academic interventions, so targeted supports, literacy focus aligned with the Oregon's early literacy framework, and a robust PD for staff. Notice how I said staff, not just teachers, staff. Around academic rigor, expanding offerings, so looking for robotics, welding, culinary, forestry, ag, and science, and focus on equity and access and non-traditional pathways. So understanding and realizing and helping those students who may not are four-year college goings, but maybe need to get into the trades. How can we help facilitate that? Programs to increase belonging, trust, and regular attendance, and then ongoing engagement and communication improvements. So intended outcomes are continue to increase academic proficiency, improve graduation and on-track rates for all student groups, boost regular attendance to above state benchmarks and to where all students attend as often as possible, Expand career readiness through CTE enrichment courses as well as hands-on learning. So not just those courses, but how do we make math more hands-on? Those types of things. Enhance student well-being via supportive environments and continue to strengthen community and family partnerships. So here are some strategies. So this is what the budget was built around. So we will continue to do an act. So also remember for integrated guidance, we're talking about early literacy funds, SIA, HSS, comprehensive school improvement. So that's a CSI, TSI, an early intervention and another I system. So that would be really how, I can't think of the other I. So one of the things that we are looking at funding is a continued and academic advisors for grades 7 through 12. K through 6 PLC times and teacher PD based on research-based teaching practices. We're continuing our high dosage tutoring for early literacy. So that's grades K through 3. Instructional coach, and then summer credit recovery and acceleration classes for 9 through 12. So that's those pieces under the academic we would fund. Looking at trauma-informed training for staff, PBI system implementation for K through 12, and then continuing to develop partnerships with regional agencies. Monies would also continue to support the CTE POS. POS means program of study and elective courses. Work-based learning and partnerships with local businesses with pre-ETS services, also in that piece. And pre-ETS is what we used to call YTP. It's for students. It's the youth transition program. And so being able to provide funds for students to work in the summers, we're already talking about how can we bring some students to actually work in the school to actually help with different projects such as repainting grandstands, cleaning up the things like that. And then for attendance and engagement, continuing to fund the family outreach liaison. We're continuing to do the annual relational trust surveys and practices to include school climate and attendance incentives. So again, here are our key investments. Okay, are there any questions?
I have a question about how
Yeah.
the grant is administered. Does the amount vary based on your application, or you just do the application, they give you the money?
So thank you for asking. So if we go to the board recommendation form, if I wanted to put that. So the grant is actually based on your ADMW. And so there is a floor of what the minimum amount they will give you. The minimum amount they will give you, we're at the early literacy. So the minimum amount that any school gets, no matter if you have 2 kids or what we have in our K through, I believe it's K through 3. I think we have like 55 kids, is we get 59,000. Then it goes up based on kind of some formulas based on that. So HSS is actually only based on your 9 through 12 ADMW, which your SIA though is K through 12. So your grant, it says you get this amount. How are you going to spend it? So it doesn't really go up based on my application. They say, here's your money. Now write your grant based on that. Now, the thing would be, I've spoken to staff about this too, is we are finally kind of at the level we should have been anyways. We are finally that flat funded. However, Mr. Staley and I have worked really hard with ODE because they're still saying, oh, we think you're getting this amount, and we know it's not right. So we've worked with ODE, and based on what we have gotten with ODE, our HSS will be reduced from this year to next year by 20%. Our SIA will be reduced by 32%, and our CSI, TSI will be reduced by 18%. So really stuff that we were actually funding before. So we were funding some IAs to help with classroom support. I had to take those out because we don't have the money for them anymore. I took out some summer school money. I didn't take out stuff. I took out summer school money because one, this grant runs from July 1 to June 30th. So even if we did summer school, it'd be a little off. But 2, we had no money in there. And 3, the state is actually coming out with some summer school stuff. The unfortunate part for us is with the construction we're doing, it's hard to do summer school. So hopefully after this summer, we'll be able to really do some summer school things. Did I answer your question? Though the money is based off of ADMW.
Yeah, it seems frustrating that you could make a whiz bang grant application, say, we are gonna do all these great things and we need so much money, they're like, well, you're getting the same as the person who just barely. Fill it
And
in.
that's one of those legislative pieces, but one of the hard parts that I have to give kudos to Mr. Staley, because we literally spent 3 weeks with ODE. And what he had to do was go back and figure out which of our 2-year ADMW we were gonna be accounted for, because they were like, you're gonna get 600,000, and him and I were like, no, we're not. And so we had to go back and figure out which one. So really, I think it was 574 we got this year. It dropped to like 380. So there's a huge, tremendous drop in that. So he spent a lot of time making sure that we knew pretty much the exact number so we could budget. At first, we got well, make sure you read this article that says budgeting in a shortfall. And I was like, we're not budgeting with $20,000 less. We're budgeting with like $200,000 less. And so part of, like I said, that background piece, I wanted to show you all that. There is some cuts in there because we couldn't afford it based on where we're going down.
So they give you the money, are you, then we're required to spend it the way you said, even though it's way less than.
So
you
if
still
you
have
were,
to do all that.
yeah, I mean, and they know, we called a lot and I said, I can't afford all this. So they said, as long as you stay within the budget and the activities that your board approved, which you all approved that same type of thing 2 years ago, we're fine. If we add, I have to come back to it, but there's no adding at this point. And so I'm very happy based on the data and the work we've done that we are hitting the right spots. We are seeing an increase in 9th grade on track, which I know will help our graduation rates. We are able to fund more types of classes for kids. So that's kind of where I'm hoping at. So again, if we go back to, sorry, let me leave the meeting now,
Can I ask a question really quick?
please.
You shared the student data trends,
Mhm.
and I know that it always feels like we have these multiple competing goals that we're trying to work into a year. Is there a way that we can build some of these student data trends into the work that we're doing with our district realignment?
When you say realignment, can
Or
you-
our
strategic
our strategic plan.
I can
Thank
grab
you.
some and we could bring it in, because I think too, one of the reasons I think the strategic plan is a really great thing to do is that, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about, we want our students to be ready for the world, you know, that part of it is really, how do we give them fair and supportive feedback? And how do we really help teach them how to do self-advocacy pieces? So yeah, if you wanted me to, I could ask Alex, if we can bring some of that stuff in. But I think this is a great way too, that our strategic plan can align with what we're seeing with those kids and then what we're doing. I mean, number one, we want our kids to be successful post-secondary. So that's kind of those ideas. When Alex brought me the data and we looked at it, that was kind of the piece, like post-secondary is not always a 4-year college. And so we wanted to make sure we're doing some of those other pieces. So.
Other questions?
I have another question
Oh,
about
sorry.
how you highlighted the academic and trauma-informed PD for staff, not for teachers.
Staff is teachers. I'm including everybody. So that would be from the custodians to the secretaries, to the teachers, to the IAs, all those pieces.
It doesn't include part-time teachers.
Well,
Is it-
I
will it-
currently don't have a part-time teacher, but it would include that. I would invite those people, yes.
And it seems like if there was like a substitute for a few days in a classroom, we would streamline the educational experience to have them all teaching with the same.
I don't necessarily disagree. This is not about teaching strategies, though. This is about understanding how to create an environment. I don't disagree. There will be some stuff that, yes, we would invite people to. Some of those substitutes are part-time staff. Obviously contracted, such as the ESD, they could be invited to. They may not come because they work on certain pieces and we pay for certain parts of their time. But yeah, staff would mean as a whole.
Okay. Well, thank you for that presentation. There is a motion to consider this evening. Or sorry, there's an additional link that has the motion to consider if anybody would like to make that motion this evening.
To approve the 2025 to 2027 biennium IG plan as presented.
All right, motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Laura, please.
Russ,
Yes.
Jamie? Yes. Sorry. Christine,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb, yes, motion carries 5-0.
Okay, in our previous meeting, there was a question, Russ, that you had asked about discussing expenditures. And I had to let you know that I would take that to Vincent Adams with OSBA and then ended up meeting with our legal counsel in a couple of different places. And they came back with the review of policy DJ. So expenditure spending, and I did share this in email to all board members, or I think our board secretary shared the overview to all board members. That is an operational process. And the superintendent operates under this district purchasing policy, which is a $75,000 limit. So I give that explanation to share that this is the policy I put on here in discussion with legal counsel to be able to ask those questions. Other questions that come up based on the operational spending should be handled in that conversation with the superintendent via like the board member superintendent, or questions asked that do happen at times. And then the public is welcome to ask those questions of the superintendent as well. So Russ, is there, I'm just looking to Russ first, just because he had asked for this to be on here. I just wanted to turn it to you a little bit and kind of go from there. And then Deb, I think it sounded like you might have a question or
I did.
comment.
Well, according to BBAA one, I guess my concern last month and the concern I have now is whether a certain bill that is not a billable expense to the school is considered a contract or agreement with a company or individual. An electric bill that comes to the school is paid by the superintendent, but if a payment to any entity for any reason falls into a situation where it becomes a contract or an agreement, especially something that continues year over year, it should be brought to the board for approval. The school board, as written, all contracts of the district must be approved by the board unless otherwise delegated by the board to the superintendent or designee for approval before an order can be drawn for payment. If a contract is made without authority of the board, the individual making such contract shall be personally liable. I've done a lot of research on this with Oregon. The Oregon legislature board on what a contract is, and a contract does not have to be written. It can be implied. Any contract for work on a public school falls under the purview of the board. The only reason that any contractor should be working on the school is if they have approval on the board. It is my belief that we should have further discussion on this. I know that there are lines of confidentiality, things I shouldn't necessarily say here in this meeting, but I do request legal counsel to look at this situation in general to see if the school has established a contract with a business or person outside of the board's supervision or acknowledgement and a sustaining vote.
So is there a modification that you would like to make to this policy that you're proposing?
I'm actually just reading the policy and I'm stating what it says about contracts and agreements. I believe in my review of all the information that this was not a bill. This was a payment in the form of a contract, whether written or verbal or inferred.
Okay.
And therefore, it should have been brought to the board for approval.
So I'm seeing you take notes down.
Okay, can I read this to you so I understand? You would like me to work with legal counsel about whether this agreement would be a contract or an agreement, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase this, a bill or a contract. Am I reading that right? Am I hearing you
Yes.
right? And so I will take that then to legal counsel. Is that, I just want to make sure I know what I'm asking.
The question at hand
Okay.
is, was this a bill to the district? Was it addressed to the district? If it was not addressed to the district, then the district has entered a contract with an individual or corporation to pay a fee for services. That fee for services falls under board approval.
Okay,
That is the Oregon law for public entities and contracting general provisions, ORS 279A.
okay, say that again, RS 279. Okay,
And there's lots of information there. But I've reviewed pretty thoroughly. Although there may not be a written agreement, it does not mean that a contract was not formed. And especially in a multi-year situation.
okay. So what I will do, if the board would like me to, is I will work with legal counsel on this situation. Is that what I'm hearing from the board?
I personally believe that we have violated BBA in this policy or this action, this expenditure. And I also have contacted and spoke with an attorney and.
Deb, hold on a second, point of order. We can't bring anything from an external attorney outside of into a meeting. So if you have, but the board has to stick with our in-house legal counsel.
Okay, well, I
or-
think we have violated the policy,
Okay,
Okay,
so I would like our attorneys to get involved because I think the policy has been violated. And I have brought it to Ms. Nerat's attention, and I have also brought it to your attention.
okay.
Miss
Okay,
Pullen,
just
and
Christine.
I think that it needs to be addressed as a board. Because I definitely believe we have violated them, not us. The policy has been violated.
so I will, let me make sure I'm gonna work with legal counsel to discuss the issue. We'll look at policy violations with legal counsel. Is that what we're asking?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
work with check with the experts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't believe that we need a vote for that. It's a
No, you-
consensus. but-
Everybody's consensus, I will work on that.
Russ, was there something more?
I would just like to share that in BBF. Number 18 says respect the right of the public to be informed about district decisions, school operations as allowed by law. It is my understanding that bills can be public knowledge, bills that are paid, if the community requests those bills. I am not sure on how that has been handled by the school. I would like to state for the record that due to our audit, that the bill is not being given the bills and checks. I did not see them this month in an email.
They were there.
I did
They were there.
see-
You received
I
them.
know, that's my right oversight. But that has happened for, just for the record, how many months have we been receiving this?
2 years.
No, 2 months.
No,
2 years.
we've been getting them for 2 years via email.
We
What
just
was the
haven't had to
audit?
do the reconciliation report this year.
The audit was their feedback was the ensuring that we were asking the questions and having a feedback loop and things like that, so that was happening. And so that is the presentation that Mr. Staley gave last month on the checklist that's now in the consent agenda, so that every board member can see every board member in public, anybody in public that reads the agenda can see the entire process from a bill to a PO and all that goes through that approval process that shows the accountability in that space.
And that started last month.
Yes, the board agreed last month to put that under the consent agenda. Based on the audit report, Mr. Staley had created that and brought it to us.
So I am gonna respectfully say no, because last year, all through the year, I had to ask for the checks. They were not just automatically
Oh,
sent out
okay.
at the first of the year.
Oh, okay.
So
So that
I-
correction then on that. So then,
Yes.
yes, if somebody had asked for them and then it's in this year, right, that they've been automatically sent monthly.
That's right.
Okay.
So for the last 2 years, they have not been automatically sent out. And if any of our community members wants to see that information for the record, how do they go about obtaining that?
They must
information?
call the district. So we are not, as board members,
Right.
we are not allowed
Mhm.
to release anything that we receive from the superintendent because that is a privilege of a board member. However, they can call the district, email the district, get a hold of Ms. Nicole to make a request.
Like, so it just an email, I mean, because we're on the record and I just want
Yes.
this open.
No, I appreciate it, and I was
Do we
gonna say
not-
that.
Have a public records request process.
We do, it's in policy. I don't know which policy it
That's
is,
what I
but
thought,
they are
yeah.
more than welcome to email and we'll go through that process with them.
Okay.
And that's something that has always been in place. That was never not something that people could not do.
Is that policy BBF number 18, the sharing information is allowed by law, but
Yes.
I don't know what's allowed by law. I'm not an expert, so that's why I refer them.
Well, and that would be something, if I had a question, I would ask our legal counsel.
Well, and it's Information's Act. I mean, they have the right to the information that our school is spending the money. So that's part of the information.
They do, but there's also pieces too. Again, if I had questions, I would
Right.
ask legal because I don't want to.
Well, yeah, we
Yep.
don't give out
Yep.
personal
For the
employee
record,
information.
Mhm.
the public records request process is KBA AR.
Well, if anybody asks me, on anything I don't know, I send them to Laura. So,
ABAR.
KBA AR is the actual process.
ABAR.
KBA and KBA AR.
Oh, okay, there you go. Got it.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this agenda topic? All right, AF is consideration of board officers. Russ, I'm gonna hand that one to you. This was your request to put on the agenda.
Thank you very much. Love this. So, there's a lot here, as we're entering a new election cycle, and we'll most likely have new board member or two. I believe it's imperative that we not just discuss board conduct, but that we look at how the board leadership is organized and I sent out these notes. I guess I will just read through them quickly. I think everyone received them. The goal of this conversation is to determine if the current elected board officers are fulfilling their responsibilities and communicating with the board in its entirety. Determine if the board officers are willfully withholding information from certain board members. To discuss the issue of board chair asking how much to share or not share with the board in private meetings. To discuss lack of communication on sensitive issues to the board, leaving board members ill-equipped to discuss these issues. To discuss verbiage choice, such as stay in your lane, being used to prevent concerned board members from discussing sensitive issues. To discuss lack of direct communication to certain board members. In the last month, I have not heard from the board chair personally, and there have been a couple of emails to the board. I would like to think that in light of the last board meeting with my concerns that would have taken place. I have, however, spoken with other board members, including the vice chair of the board multiple times. In one conversation with a board member, I was told Racine isn't going to reach out to you because she probably doesn't think you'll take her call. If no attempt is made, then no answer is given. I believe after watching Portland School District board meetings this week, Albany School District board meetings this week, the organization of our board is different here. In every school board meeting I watch, the superintendent does not sit in the middle of the board. The board sits together and the superintendent sits on the end. I've noticed this in time that we seem to highlight Krista as part of the board or the central figure of the board, and this is not to demean the superintendent by any stretch. I think the community needs to see the board as unified as a board and the superintendent as the leader of the school that we hire. I have noticed, especially in the last meeting, communications back and forth between the board chair and the superintendent that I find a little bit disrespectful. Whether you agree or disagree with the board member, all board members are reserved the right of their own opinion. I believe that if my board question last month was answered as I requested from the board, that it wouldn't have escalated to the point that you feel it was disrespectful. I also believe that during prior meetings, you have demonstrated a attitude of demeaning facial expressions that make one feel that they may not know what they're saying or be aware of what they're saying. So I have reviewed policy after policy after policy. I would like to reiterate what I said last month. That's wrong policy. Sorry, I have a lot of things here. In policy BBF, it says, number 4, respect the right of other board members to have opinions and idea which differ. Insist that all board and district business is ethical and honest, number 9. I think anytime a board member asks a question about the ethical nature of an issue or legality of it, it should not be construed as a threat to any officer of the school, employee of the school, or board member. It is an open, fair, and honest question with no hidden agenda, which was exactly what's written in number 10. I believe that I acted with all of the integrity I have as a person and as a school board member in asking the question the way I did. I believe that not only I, but the community in general viewed it as ill-received and an unwarranted question that didn't deserve an answer. So for the opportunity of a board chair to serve as the board chair, OSBA website suggests that at the time of board selection for the chair, that a board chair should demonstrate their ability and their knowledge and the reason that they should serve as a board chair. I need to pull up the policy. I think I closed it, minimized it, but find it, sorry. Board officers, there it is. So, 1 second.
Right there.
Yeah. Oh, I printed it. Yeah. Apologize for the delay, but this is important. Oh, this is. I will. Just give me 1 second. I closed too many screens here. Anyways, that being said, there it is. Okay. A commission issue for board members is how to select the chair. Often the highest vote getter or the senior member of the board is chosen as chair. In some districts, the chair is chosen for 1 year and chairmanship rotates among board members. OSBA encourages boards to closely examine individual board members' skills and abilities when selecting a chair because the chair has a unique role. The board member with the strongest leadership skills is often the most appropriate choice. I think when I go back to last July, a nomination was made for someone to serve as the board chair by another board member. I have never been a part of a self-nomination for a public board, and I've served on public boards for a number of years. I believe as a board that as we come up on elections, if a person wants to be in a position of leadership on the board, they should demonstrate to the board their abilities, their talents, and the reasons why they would like to serve. I also believe that we should adjust our policy for selecting board chair to include a mandatory nomination from a board member not running for office. I believe that as a board, there has been a feeling of a community of a few or an alliance to the superintendent and not the board as a whole. I believe that's demonstrated to me personally an inability to be effective in communication to the board chair. I know that I don't stand alone in this. I do not have an objective of absolutely making a decision or demanding a change. I do have an objective of insisting on full transparency between the board chair and the vice chair to the board in its entirety. I do think that I would like for the board chair to just take a moment and maybe validate or invalidate some of my concerns, if you so choose. Otherwise, I will end and table this and open it for other discussion.
I think the expectations are a little unfair at times from some board members. I have a relationship with a superintendent. I expect each of you to have your own relationship with the superintendent. And I would also expect that you don't need to bring that to me or any other board leadership personnel. It is amongst each board member to really cultivate that relationship. If there's an expectation that of communication that I haven't made, I would like to know about that. so that there's a conversation. So Russ, I can remember a few times you have called me for guidance and said, hey, this situation has occurred. What do I do next? And we have walked through that. When I've had board members that were out on leave before they come back, it's one thing of calling, having a conversation. These are the things that I think that are really important that you've missed while you're out. But I'd like you to take a minute to reflect on that and ask any questions to the superintendent or I. So those are the things I think that are really within my scope as a board chair. Also, anytime a situation comes up that you need to be made aware of, an additional executive session, things like that. I am going to address what happened last month and why I didn't call either one of you. And I am going to be very frank. Deb, you screamed at me in this boardroom, and I was not going to pick up the phone because I didn't feel like my conversation with you would have had any progress. I asked Soren to please have that conversation. I thought that would be a better relationship and resolution path than having that conversation with you. Russ, I felt very much the same when you actually instructed our superintendent to be silent because you were actually addressing the board. That is when I say I felt like the disrespect was there. It wasn't necessarily towards me so much as a behavior of disrespect that I was feeling from a board member in the room. Again, didn't feel like we were going to have a productive conversation. And so those are the reasons I took those actions to say we needed to get through multiple big issues this month. It wasn't going to be as productive talking to me. Now, maybe it would have been, but I didn't feel like it was. And I know that Soren is a great advocate in that leadership space also, and has a great way of having conversations with other people. That was the decision I made. And I'll take accountability for that if you are both very upset with me about that. The phone does work both, it works both ways in that space too. So it would have been absolutely okay to call and say, I would prefer to have this conversation with you, and I feel like you're avoiding me. But that did not happen. So I continued on that path for that conduit of leadership conversations.
I 100% disagree. Respectfully, I tried to have a conversation with you. And the reason I was so upset with you was because the only thing you wanted to tell me was why I was wrong. You weren't willing to hear what I had to say. And I wasn't screaming. Yes, I was very upset, but I wasn't screaming.
Deb, you walked out of this room and told me you'd have a complaint on my desk the next day.
And
that
I
you
did
would
file
lead
my
and
complaint.
you would lead a recall against me as you screamed out of this room.
I said, maybe I'll resign and lead that.
I'm just,
I did.
I mean,
You're right, I did.
I guess.
Because I felt that
So
you were
Let's-
withholding
let's point of order
conversation.
here, please.
Yep.
I felt that you were withholding.
point of order has
information
been called.
And that you. did
Point
not
of
give us
order, Jamie.
All of
Point of order,
our
please.
information.
Point of order.
You can
Let your
point of
board
order
mem-
of me if you want to.
Your board member is point of ordering you. I am not.
This is not a constructive conversation or a respectful one at this point. I think we need to come back together and take a deep breath and relax and try to continue this conversation respectfully.
So what was the number again?
I would just like to restate the fact that my question last month was to the board on how do I address a concern about an unethical or illegal payment of a bill. That was my question. That does not involve Krista. That was a question to the board. It was not disrespectful. It was actually disrespectful for Krista to insert herself and try to tell me to have a private conversation. The private conversation is not necessary for a public meeting and a public expense. However, the unwillingness to actually tell me the way to address that is what the problem was. Nobody ever did except OEC. That was the answer. There was never, let's put it on the agenda next month. or
Okay,
let's
this,
have,
I'm gonna point of order now. This is about, if this is about me as a board chair,
it is.
or, okay, so then,
Because you led that meeting.
yes. And
And you're telling me I was disrespectful multiple times in your opening statement of this meeting.
I didn't say, I
But
didn't
you're
point
not
that at any
concerned
of,
about the disrespect to me or the community. There is a viable reason why that question was asked.
Can I make a statement?
yes, go for it.
I also felt that there were some points of disrespect, and I think that that fell into the fact that we've had multiple conversations about when we have data put in front of us, there's some exclusions that we have because it's identifying information. I feel like this was an operational issue as it had to do with an employee's reimbursement or payment. And
But
I,
that's exactly what it's not.
but I,
It's not a reimbursement. It's not a
But-
school bill
how do we know that?
because it was addressed to the name.
You saw the bill? Or you just saw the check?
I
We-
guess how
we
deep
can't
do you want to
discuss
get into the
that
weeds
part.
here?
Well,
The
that's what I'm
question
saying.
is this.
That's my point. Thank you, Deb. That's my
The-
point. We
the-
can't discuss that
It's
here.
on the public bills. Anyone can have it. The point is this. There was no answer given. There was just a directive.
We
How
have
do
policy.
I still
We-
approach the
I
board
wasn't done
chair or the
speaking.
board?
I wasn't done speaking.
Go ahead.
Thank you. We have policy that states how we ask those questions,
Mhm.
especially when they're related to operational and employee information. And then that aside, I feel like that was disrespectfully handled by not following proper procedure. And number two, I felt it was very disrespectful to blatantly state that whomever, I think the words were whomever signed those checks and authorized that payment broke the law.
I didn't say that.
It was pretty
In
close
fact,
to
I
that.
actually told Mr. Staley I wasn't saying he did anything wrong signing the check. That's on the
I-
video. You
I
should
will-
watch it.
Yeah, I have multiple times. There was a point
He
where you
took
basically
personal
called
offense.
them criminal. I took offense to that for them. I'm sorry, I found it was disrespectful. You can't tell
I
me I
guess you
don't.
didn't use the same meeting I did, because I didn't.
Okay.
make Any allegation to Mr. Staley at all.
Okay,
I'm
so-
sorry he resigned.
My statement's complete. Thank you.
Did
I-
you not have prior awareness of that bill without the board's knowledge?
No, I got it with,
I was told that you and Krista talked
Yeah,
about it.
this discussion is getting it to way off the topic of what the agenda item
Well, it
is.
is as a board chair, a decision to make if you knew about it and didn't share it with the board.
I received the same information that the board received. Any information that I received between another board member and Krista was based on the request to have the superintendent in the communication. That communication also was pointed to that board member to have a private conversation with the superintendent to get their questions answered. The conversation that you're addressing also was suggested that we go downstairs and have a conversation with the superintendent. You refused to do so.
I did because I was angry
So,
and I
I'm-
didn't find it to be constructive.
so what I'm,
And I did ask the questions in the emails and I never got the conclusion of the answers.
so what I'm saying is, as a board chair, I understand you may not like my answers, and I'm okay with that. I work really hard to follow legal guidelines, go through the processes, and get the answers. When I was asked last meeting to follow up on just what you mentioned, Russ, on that ethical question, I don't have the answer at hand. I have to work with OSBA on that. If somebody can do that better than me, then good job, because that is a lot of work to be on top of that.
On top of exactly what?
Knowing all the policies front and back and how to guide that on a regular basis. I lean on OSBA and our legal counsel to give us a lot of that guidance at times. And so that is why I can't always answer a question within a meeting. If you're expecting that of a board chair, then maybe that's not me, because I can't answer every single guidance question at the drop of a hat. I would have to say that I don't know if any of us could.
Well, it's been a month and I still don't know how to answer the same question I asked last month.
So do you believe I sent a follow-up email of all of that? It actually pointed you to the expenditure in 8E, this discussion on the district purchasing is where board conversations can happen on what's operational, and that's that $75,000 limit. And I do believe it also addressed that other conversations on operational expenditures need to happen between you and the superintendent. Often then you can discuss on how things would get onto the agenda or work with your board and chair and vice chair to get them onto the agenda. That's how we've handled things in the past. Do you have other information that you have found that reads that differently?
I find that I should be able to request a conversation about a payment of something that seems unusual.
Absolutely. Did you?
Yeah.
With your superintendent?
I believe so.
And you didn't get a meeting with your superintendent?
I haven't requested a meeting with the superintendent. I've requested
That is,
explanation.
that is my point. That conversation needs to happen between you and the superintendent. That's your relationship to be building with the superintendent. I didn't have additional information to share with the entire board, and quite frankly, sharing that with the entire board goes through Laura when I do have that information, because otherwise it is a quorum and public meeting law violation.
Yes.
So I have, at this point, I think, responded to your frustrations, hopefully, at least given my point of it. So yeah.
So it still comes down to the conclusion has not been sent out of the original conversations.
The conclusion, which conclusion
The
are you looking
conclusion
for your
of
email?
of the emails.
Absolutely. Set a meeting with the superintendent and I'll be there with you. That was the conclusion of those, to have a conversation so we can continue that piece of it. In the final emails, for your emails that you had asked of the superintendent, the request was made that your board chair was present with you for a conversation. You can pick somebody else in the board if you
I
would
would
like.
prefer to have Soren.
Absolutely.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is there, Russ in the AE has asked, and the board agreed, has asked me to work with legal counsel. My guess is that would be the conclusion. Is that correct? Am I reading that correct?
I'm assuming if all the information that's been provided to us via email,
I don't believe it has. That's my point.
then I guess we're on to the next step of getting legal advice. So there is no answer yet. If it's not, if what we've been presented is not good enough.
It's
Then
not
the
good
next-
enough. It isn't about good enough. It is about violating policy BBA. And the board will authorize the superintendent to approve payments on all contracts and business transactions of the district in accordance to board policy.
This does not have to
Up
do
to-
with board officers again. I
It
think that
does, because I believe that you're working with the superintendent and these policies have now been violated.
So my question then, can I go back to, is we haven't had it because Russ asked a question. The board said, yes, they would like to. I'm going to work with legal counsel. So unless that is not what you want me to do, I don't think we can come to a conclusion until I do this. Is that,
Okay.
is that where we're at?
I think
That
that's
was my assumption.
Okay.
I think the question at hand, and this is hard to answer. I know. Honestly, Christine, I believe that you have willfully left out information pertinent to the board being aware and preventing embarrassing situations. I believe you have asked multiple times in meetings, how much of this do I need to share with the board? I believe that you have used language multiple times that makes people feel that they can't ask a question or form an opinion that goes against what you want. I believe that you are the wrong person for the board chair. I believe that when I seconded the nomination for Soren last year, in a way, you belittled his knowledge and his experience, and I believe he would have been a better board chair. I believe that you did it for your own will, not for the will of the board. Now, I am just gonna say it, and I don't care. I want to make a motion to remove you as board chair and to nominate Soren to be the board chair in your place.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
All right, is there any additional discussion?
I would like to point out that last year, I personally stated
know.
that I was not ready at the time.
I know.
I did not feel belittled or anything.
Well, I understand. I believe that we're at a moment of volatility on the board. And I believe Soren has done everything in his power the last month to make this board blend together and heal.
I agree.
And I believe, although elections are coming up in July, that going into the new season, I feel this would be the best for the board and the current trajectory.
I agree.
Any other discussion?
So in July, we have to do this.
According to your policies, yes.
Laura, can you take a roll call vote, please?
No.
No.
I need to be last, please.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
No.
Motion
Fails.
fails.
Thank you.
Policy IIGBA, this is 8G, electronic communications discussion. Russ, can I hand this one to you? You requested this agenda item as well.
Absolutely. Let's just keep rolling. I believe there's some holes in this policy. So I've made some highlights. I think I know that I spoke with Soren, he's gonna work with you, Krista, on IBGRD1, right? Is that what we're on?
The Tualatin one, the one that we talked about
Well,
last.
there's a 12 one and there's an LC one. Sorry, I gotta get back to the LC one.
I have questions, is this, because we were talking about a policy that would envelop AI in it.
That was the one that Jamie brought from the OSBA from Tiger Tualatin. We don't currently have that
Right, so are
policy.
we working to revise our policy to include some of those things? Or is this a separate electronic communication system? Is this a separate discussion from the electronic? I'm not sure what we would call the one that we were gonna come up
Oh,
with.
it was responsible use of
Would we fold
technology.
this all into one?
Well, my question to you, Russ, is do you want us to work with OSBA to fold it into one? Do you want two separate things?
I think that we have a little bit. Why am I not? Hold on. Is it which policy is
Is
it?
it IIBGA?
I think, yeah.
Yep,
I
the
had
electronic.
requested, Russ, from you,
Yeah,
the
with the
policy you
number.
wanted to look at, and this was the one that you mentioned.
Yeah, I just think I had some. Oh yeah, the IIBGA-AR, the LC School District 7J.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a procedure, correct?
No, but there's the IIBG. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had Laura put IIBGA on the agenda. Did you want us to look
Yeah.
at? Do you
I
do?
just am having a problem bringing it up.
Oh,
Okay, okay.
It's in our
I'll just-
board book.
My concern is the Tiger, I mean, the reason the Tiger Tualatin one I used is it's a little more specific
Mhm.
on some of the language, especially involving staff. I think ours is pretty specific with students, or at least the looks of it. But I think that,
May I ask a
Go ahead.
question? Is the Tiger Tualatin one you're looking at an AR or
Yes.
a regular policy?
it is.
It's an AR?
I didn't put it
No,
on
it's
this.
it's a regular.
I didn't put it on the agenda.
Oh, no, we
Sorry.
didn't, because that was a conversation I
I
had with
thought that
Russ,
was
because
good.
that was one that we had talked, Soren and I had talked about at the last meeting, or the board had talked, and that Soren and I were gonna get together to kind of look at it, and it might, the earliest we could
Right.
possibly put on was May. So it was on the last meeting one.
Right.
So can I ask a clarifying question, Russ? Do you want Soren and I to look at the IIBGA and compare it to the Tiger Tualatin to see perhaps if we can meld it?
Yes.
Okay, Soren, can you write that down?
And I'm
Okay.
looking at it right now, and that is like it's, I just think we need to take a little deeper look at the language, especially when it comes to the staff responsibility for ensuring that internet activity is protected in the classroom.
I have a question. Would you like to be a part of that conversation with Soren? There's nothing saying that two board members couldn't
I
meet with
pretty
you.
much explained it to
Oh,
Soren.
okay,
And
okay,
I
okay.
actually talked to Russ about it quite a bit, and I said I will keep
I
it
think
moving
he
as
took
we
notes.
develop this. and
Okay,
I think
changes
we
come up.
just,
There's-
it seems overly focused on the children, right, the students. And I think we need to broaden that language to focus on the staff.
Okay.
And especially if staff are bringing personal computers or devices into the classroom that may not have the filters on it. I don't know what all's being used and I don't care. I just mean, like, I think there needs to be a better structure so they understand what is acceptable. There's also a thing, I guess, what I wanted to point out is that I was looking for my highlighted version because it would have been easier for me to talk about, but it was oh my gosh, I guess I just can't, I'm just drawing a blank here, sorry. But it was basically making sure that the sites are actually given to the staff of what they're allowed to use in class, right? And we don't have a technology supervisor that I'm aware of. I have that in a highlight in it, but
Can
maybe
I-
we do.
We do. It's Mr.
Yeah.
Roberts.
Okay, so Mr. Roberts,
Mhm.
Roberts would be overseeing the staff and like the use of media in the classroom or YouTube videos or websites, right? And then we would have to trust that technology supervisor is having due diligence to make sure. So I think just
Can I ask
language.
Sorry, can I interrupt and ask a question really quick? I think you brought up a good point about staff bringing their own devices.
Mhm.
Who controls the cybersecurity policy? This is communications. Can I ask where we're protecting data on like personal computers? So if I bring this in and I connect to the network, could I bring a virus in? Could I get to staff data or, things like that?
Let me talk
Do-
with Mr. Roberts
I don't
on
know that
that.
that's the same one, but Russ made that point. I didn't want to lose track of that because
Cybersecurity.
cybersecurity.
What I will tell you, just so you all know, by law, we do have to have our filter set up a certain way, which is in the policy. It's like the CIPA, CIPAA. But Soren, are you writing notes as well? I can talk to Mr. Roberts and maybe next board meeting, if you all want, maybe he can talk a little bit about how we do, because we do have certain filters. Our filters do go through the ESD. So maybe if you guys would like him to, maybe he could come here and he could answer some of those questions.
Yeah, and I think like the idea is it's not every website is what it says it is.
Mhm.
And like if you run YouTube videos, right, you just don't always know even on kids' YouTube, sometimes you see things
Mhm.
that you think, how in the heck did that make it to kids' YouTube, right? So I just think there needs to be a broader
Okay.
education and awareness
Okay.
to.
SIPA is mentioned in that AR.
Yeah. Okay.
INAG.
But I hear
Sure
what you're
we'll get
saying.
there.
I-
And I
Okay.
know
INAG.
We had a good talk, and if you want me involved, I'm happy to get involved. Just let me know. how
Okay.
that went.
Okay.
I just think it's a heightened thing these days, so.
Okay. I have some notes, Soren, as well. And go from there. Okay. Now, what I will tell you is it may not happen before the May meeting, but Soren and I will work together then and we'll work with Mr. Roberts. And then Russ, we can kind of give you an update of where we're at. And if you want to jump in or something like that, would that work? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Does that conclude that? You didn't need a motion or a vote because we didn't make any modifications, right?
We already are doing.
You're already in
something,
that
yes.
process. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
On how we-
Okay.
All right, so we don't have any first reading policies. There are
First.
three second readings that have been modified. We can go through them one by one, or we can approve them as a whole no, we can't. We have to go one by one.
Can I just
Can we
real
do
quick
it?
before you guys go?
They're not grouped.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll have to group them next time. We could do that. Let me ask you a question before we do that. Would you guys prefer when we do first reading and second readings to do them group or one by one? So Laura and I know.
I have a feeling on this, like when we do a whole bunch of them and we group them all together, that's great, but when we pull individual ones out of that group to work on them more for like a second, third reading, I
Think they should.
feel
be
like
different.
they should
Okay.
be separate.
Okay.
Because we pulled them out individually to look at them.
So any first reading that we pass.
We
without
could
any
do so-
supervision, Group, and then any.
You can pull out of, if you do them as a group, you can say, I would do them as a group, but we want to pull this one out.
And I think that's what we've been
Yeah. I
I think
doing.
that's what.
But once we pull them out, I think it's appropriate to
Okay.
approve them individually just to complete the loop of.
Okay.
We pulled
Like-
these ones out.
Question is though, aren't these the ones that you pulled out because of law changes?
Yeah,
or-
these ones were law changes.
So couldn't we technically group them then?
You could,
Group
I
them.
just wanted to point out
11A
at the
and
last
11C.
meeting, the very last paragraph Jamie had mentioned that I'd forgotten to put, so it's the very last paragraph above the superintendent shall develop administrative regulations. I forgot to read all the way through because I just did it quickly. Texting or electronic communicating with a student through contact information gained as a contractor, agent, or volunteer for the district is strongly discouraged. That is, the same language as the personal electronic use. I can't remember that exact policy. Let me look real quick.
We made them match. We talked.
Yes.
Because we had the choice
Mhm.
of
completely like not
not allowed.
or just strongly
just-
discouraged,
yeah.
and it goes to the policy social media. GCAB, it would match that policy.
Mm.
So I just wanted to point that out because that was talked about last meeting. And that was policy JHFF/GBNAA and GBNAA/JFHFF. Sorry, they're the same things backwards.
Yeah.
Okay. And then those two were required. The GCAA was highly suggested, but this is actually the law. That is the law if you read about it. So I thought instead of always having to go, we would have it in our policy. And this particular one, GCAA, is actually only for teacher or licensed staff, so administrators and teachers.
Okay. Is there a motion to consider? Sorry,
Did we say we can lump?
I think you
You
can
can-
lump these together.
it would have to be like 11A through 11C or
Yeah.
whatever.
I make a motion to approve the second readings of 11A through 11C as presented and discussed.
There's the motion. Is there a second? All right. Any further discussion? I talked to him. All right, Laura, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Russ?
Yes.
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 Yes. Board comments.
I have one.
Go for it.
So again, I feel that we're in violation of policy BBF. I feel disrespected. I feel that my ideas, though differ from yours, were shut down. So violation of BBF number 4, I was not respected by the right of my own opinion by the other board members. And yes, I'm a little bit irritated and angry over that. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that I do feel that, and I do feel that you guys have broken policy.
Thank you.
I also have a comment.
Okay.
But I want to say to you guys, I really appreciate your nomination, and I do intend in July to ask for someone to nominate me as board chair. What I want to do is spend the next several months proving to you guys, as Russ had asked, proving that I could do it. Showing you that I'm worthy of that post before. I don't feel like I've shown that way yet. I'm gonna keep working in the manner I have been to move everybody together, and then someone can nominate me for chair.
I have no doubt that you'll be incredible. Despite my remarks, I do want to express my appreciation of the board and the superintendent. I would like to restate that last month, I did not mean any allegation toward Mr. Staley at all. I told him that in the meeting, but if he sees us or listening, or Chris to tell him, I absolutely appreciate everything he's done for this organization. That being said, my points have been noted. I do respect the vote of the board and appreciate the board's consideration for my agenda items tonight, and look forward to further transparency for not only the board, but also the community at large. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any future agenda items? Hearing none, that only gets Laura off the hook. So our next, I apologize, somebody's gonna have to read the last date because I just totally messed up my board books. But our upcoming dates, Red Cross blood drive is gonna be April 9th, which is tomorrow. Budget committee training, first meeting is April 22nd at 6 p.m. And then we'll have our budget committee meeting at 6:30. So there's a short training. And then May 2nd will be a teacher work day. Our next board meeting is going to be May 13th. With a special session board meeting on April 5th.
Tuesday, right? April
Tuesday,
15th?
April
And it's gonna
15th.
be completely online.
Yes.
Okay.
And can somebody read the last line for me?
Unless I said
Is
second,
that like gonna be like a lot of information?
What our hope is at that one is that we will come back with hopefully a different number. And then I will work with Mr. Staley to talk about
Can he
possible
send that- I
budgets.
guess I'm just asking if you can maybe send some in advance since we're online. Sometimes it's hard on a
Yeah.
Zoom to like really,
Yeah, no, it'll be on the board books. We have to
Okay.
put everything on board books.
It
Yeah.
should be,
but earlier than,
I
I mean,
was,
Tuesdays.
Sooner
are
rather
awesome.
than
Yeah.
later.
Well,
gonna
so I'm gonna do my best. I'll talk to Chris. I don't know. Our goal would be for that.
Maybe you can just post a summary.
Yeah.
with it, and that-
Yeah.
Cause it's always easy to.
Yeah, I don't know if
Not
we can
that
get,
summary, that's.
you don't like this somewhere? We'll do it. I'll work with Chris about that and I'll talk with Dawn. Okay.
I just know. that
Yeah.
Can be more distracting.
But like I said, one of the things that we really need to do is if we're moving forward, we have to get this moving.
and then finally, our second budget meeting will be May 20th. With that, we are adjourned at 9:11 PM.
It's 7.
Yeah. Laura,
Online.
put it on everybody's